I'm sat there, I'm looking at the street. I notice a guy, he's wearing a baseball cap and he's got a hoodie on and he has a paving slab in his hand, right?
Well, hello there everybody, Pete here from Thairish Times. What's the story? I hope you're keeping well. Today we're going to talk to crime novelist turned movie and film director, James, who also has a YouTube channel called Strange TV. And James is what I consider as an OG Bangkok expat. He spent 23 years in Thailand so far. I also featured him last year on the channel when he told us a story about how he was sued by a cartoon character in Bangkok, which was a very interesting story indeed. But today we have quite a serious topic. James is going to talk about how he witnessed a murder in central Bangkok about 6 weeks ago. So very serious indeed. And then we're going to get into a story that I came across on James's channel. Basically, James interviewed or created a mini documentary series about this Irish guy named Joseph, who I actually ran into on the streets of Bangkok about a year ago. I was walking down the street, I heard him talking to a group of Western women. The conversation was quite unusual, and then it wasn't until I saw Joseph feature on James's channel that I remembered who he was, exactly who he was. And I talked to James about Joseph just to figure out who this guy is, because there's a big story there, and you know me, I do like my stories. So without further ado, let's go meet James and hear what he has to say. And if you liked the video, do me a favour, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Cheers. All right, so James, thanks very much for coming on here again. So you're a long-term expat in Bangkok. You've got that beautiful view of Sukhumvit there behind you, central Bangkok. Now, you've contacted me there about a week ago and you told me a really shocking kind of story. I mean, I really don't know all the details. You're going to fill us in on that story. So take it away. Get straight into it.
Okay, good to see you, Pete. And yeah, before we start, I should explain that I've been in Bangkok in Thailand for about 20 years. And when I first arrived, my thing was I was writing crime fiction. So I had a series of 5 books with a fictional detective called Joe Dillon, who would solve crimes in the downtown kind of tourist area of Bangkok, like the scene we have behind us. And although I was writing crime fiction a lot, I was reading a lot of newspapers, I was looking at media sources, I always considered Bangkok to be a very safe place, and I still do. I feel totally safe walking the streets at night at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I do not think that we are targeted. And also the statistics back me up. Bangkok, when we look at the murder rate in Bangkok, it's 4.9 per 100,000 citizens. So it's quite low. It's in between Peru and Albania. When you look at like one of the higher countries like Jamaica, it's about 44, 45 per 100,000. A lot of South American countries are quite high up. But Thailand is reasonably low. It's not as low as like Singapore, which is like half of 0.5 per 100,000, or China's very low, but Thailand is reasonably safe. And I've never seen any serious street level crime. But that was about to change. I had a friend come over from the UK. We used to work together in London. And I was sitting on one of these kind of bars in the tourist area, when you can kind of look over the street and watch the wave of humanity as they pass by, the tourists and the hustlers and and I was saying to my friend, I really like Bangkok. I love Bangkok. It reminds me of how London probably was in the Victorian times. There's like street ballad singers, blind beggars. There's these kind of beggarly professions. There's stores on the streets selling all kinds of, bizarre wares, just as I'd imagine London to be back in the day. So I'm sitting with my friend, and I noticed as we walked up, there was a homeless guy who was sleeping just kind of below and to the right of where we were sat, looking over at the street. And as a side note, the homeless situation in Bangkok has increased quite dramatically since COVID. COVID forced a lot of people out into the streets. There was no real safety net like we had in the UK or in Ireland. You know, once you hit the bottom, you really are at the bottom, and it's difficult to find your way back up the ladder. So there's a bigger presence of homeless people. Anyway, okay, so I'm sat there, I'm looking at the street. I notice a guy, probably Thai, probably about 20, maybe 19, 22, 23. He's wearing a baseball cap and he's got a hoodie on, and he's approaching the sleeping guy, and he has a paving slab in his hand, right? And he approaches the guy who was to our right on the ground. He was on a kind of raised platform a little bit below the bar, and the guy hits him, boom, over the head once. Oh, that's going to hurt. And then bang, hits him again. Second time, concrete block to the head, causing serious trauma. Okay, hits him a third time. Nobody really in the bar keen to notice it. I stand up, I shout at the guy, I tell him in Thai to stop, but he carries on. He hits him 4, 5 times. I get close enough, he drops a weapon, he runs. He must have hit him 5 or 6 times. Blunt concrete object straight to the cranium. There's no way this guy survived it. He is not surviving this head trauma. It's a closed head injury. His body, the victim, his body goes into spasmodic kind of twitching, you know, much like when you would hit an insect. You know, it's a nervous system is reacting to this blunt trauma to the head. The guy's gone. The attacker is gone. And normally there's police everywhere in this tourist area, but it takes a long time for them to show up. I speak to the waitress. She doesn't want to call the police or the ambulance because she needs to speak to her boss first. I'm like, for goodness sake, you have to call her now. This guy's dying. So the call eventually gets made. The ambulance arrives. The victim is taken care of. I mean, I seriously doubt if he would have survived this trauma, this injury. And also, I didn't mention it's like 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. This is broad daylight. It's a broad daylight murder on the streets, tourist area of Bangkok. So I just wanted to come on the show as a warning. You know, this is not we as foreigners, we're not being targeted, but it can be a violent place. So it's good to exercise caution.
And the guy that was killed, was he asleep when this happened, or was he conscious, or what was he doing?
Well, he was asleep when I walked past into the establishment, and he was to my right, so he's just beneath me. So I couldn't really tell if he was awake or asleep when it happened. I'm guessing he was asleep. You know, one moment he was dreaming, next minute he's dead.
And I know you don't really want to name the exact location, but are we talking Sukhumvit, central Bangkok?
Yeah, it's around. Yeah. We can say it's Silom or it's Sukhumvit, but it's in a major tourist area. Early evening.
This was a Thai guy killing another Thai guy, was it?
It was. Yeah. They were both.
And why do you think that happened?
It's street justice. It was carried out on the street, and I have no idea about the motive, or I have no idea if the victim did anything to deserve it. He obviously doesn't deserve that, but to deserve some kind of reaction. I mean, these are desperate people. They're street people.
And did the cops show up after this happened?
It's interesting. I mean, I've been in that area before, and I remember there was a homeless Farang guy sleeping under a bridge, and he had walked into a 7-Eleven, and he had grabbed a couple of tall beers from the cooler from the fridge. He dropped them. He dropped one and walked out the place without paying for the other. You know, caused a little scene, bit of a ball in a china shop. And the police were immediately on the scene, and they were actually undercover. This is the interesting thing. There were police undercover sitting on stalls selling stuff, you know, and they just sprung into action, pulled out their ID. So I expected a much faster response. to this incident with the two Thai homeless guys, but it was really slow. In fact, one kind of you know those kind of fake police guys who they nick people for smoking cigarettes on the street and stuff. You know those guys, they wear like the uniform. One of those guys turned up and he just stared, not knowing what to do at all. He looked at the victim twitching around on the ground. He didn't know if to intervene, if to help, or anything. He was just there because he felt he probably should have. You know, people were shouting police. But no, the lack of response was really, really surprising.
Do you think anything would have happened with that? Do you think the guy got away with it and just ran off and cops didn't bother coming, and it's just like homeless guy kills another homeless guy and the rest of society just carries on?
I think you nailed it. I think there's not going to be a massive manhunt for this guy. There are cameras on the streets. Whether those cameras are working or if the footage has been looked at, I don't know. I'd like to think they have been looked at. And as I say, the guy was wearing a baseball cap and a hoodie. You know, it'd be kind of difficult to pick him out of a crowd.
All right, let's completely change the topic then, right? Because I noticed on your channel that you've started this this series with an Irish guy in Bangkok. His name is Joseph.
I ran away to kill myself because I wasn't happy with my life, the decisions I made, the life I was living. I was harming myself. So I decided to kill myself. But I was a coward, so I decided I'd do it slowly, with righteous living, and all the things you shouldn't do. I said I'm going to do it.
Believe it or not, I actually came across this guy months and months and months ago, about maybe a year and a half ago. I saw him on the street, and I saw him. He was talking to I think it was a group of Western women. I instantly heard the accent, so I said, okay, he's Irish. What's he saying? And it was quite like just different. The conversation was quite different. I don't know how you describe it. He was very philosophical and you know, just kind of an unusual conversation. So I said, oh, that guy's a character. And I just carried on. And then it was only when I saw your video there last week that I said, oh, I remember that guy. I remember seeing that guy in the street before. So what's the story with Joseph? Who is this guy? And why did you decide to feature him on your channel?
Well, this has been such a strange year. So just after that incident with the guy on the street who lost his life, unfortunately, in this apparently random act of street justice, I had a little bit of PTSD. I was a little bit, you know, I don't know, agoraphobic, but I didn't really want to go out on the street for a while. You know, it's what if this guy? Because I confronted him, of course. You know, I told him to stop. You know, what if he sees me and thinks, oh, there's an eyewitness. I need to erase him. So I was a little bit nervous for a while. And then my friend Paul Lindsay, who used to do a podcast with us on This Strange Life, he contacted me like literally the next day or the day after and said, do you know this guy? And he showed me a picture of Joseph, who looks like he's got a white beard, big white hair. He often wears a Santa hat, and he looks a little bit, you know, a cross between Jesus Christ and Santa Claus, you know. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to go out and meet this guy, you know. So I asked him to come over to the Sportsman, which is near where I live, and he came all the way down from Samut Prakan, or wherever he lives, Joseph, on the bus. And what a character! Amazing character. He is, yeah, very philosophical, as you say. I think wise. He's definitely had some kind of spiritual awakening, which has changed him. He, by his own admission, was, you know, leading a very kind of decadent lifestyle up until a while in Bangkok, and then something happened. He had an awakening where he decided to spread the word.
How did he end up in Thailand, James? Because he is a very unusual character. I'd love to know his background. How did he end up in Thailand? And what's he even doing for work? Is he working?
So he seems to be living with a Thai family who kind of adopted him. And he's got like this little bed he rolls up and puts in the corner during the daytime. And then he comes back and sleeps in this Thai family's living room. And he will clean the house for them. You saw him washing their feet at Songkran. How he met this family, I don't know. This is what you have to find out when you watch the documentary. I believe he's been around the world a bit. He just loves Thailand.
What was his story before that? How did he end up? I mean, it looks like you said, he had a spiritual awakening. He's turned, full hippie. Let's be honest. He's grown his hair out. He looks like a guru. What was he doing before? Do you know any of his background back in Ireland or anything like that?
Well, he spoke about his school years and family, very impoverished upbringing. Didn't have any. But I have to watch the.
You're not giving that away here, aren't you? You have to watch the documentary. But we come on. I mean, come on. You got to give me something here. Okay. How did he end up going from Ireland to Thailand, or what was his story there? Because he's a very unusual guy, and like I said, full hippie, kind of a guru guy. And I know that there's something there in the past that would have led him to where he is now.
Yeah, I don't know if he went to Thailand or if Thailand came to him. He has been here like a little bit pre-COVID, not that long.
Oh, he hasn't been here that long?
No, he's not like a lifer. So I think
was he in Ireland before that then?
I think he's been traveling around the world. But yeah, obviously and Thailand is the place where he felt most at home.
But what's he doing for money?
Well,
you have to watch the documentary. Are you doing a full-on documentary, or what's the story?
Well, I decided to do these little kind of short clips, 5-10 minutes, and I'm going to stitch them all together. And at the moment, I think he's a really powerful speaker. He's a fascinating character. And what I need to do is kind of force the arc of the story. So I have to give him like quests and things he needs to do to create conflict for there to be a story. I would love for him to kind of meet his daughter, that there's a very like tearful confession about how he was with his ex-partner, and she became pregnant and she didn't want to have the child because they couldn't afford to raise the child. So he said, have the child, give birth to it, give me the child, and then I will take care of her. And you can go off and do your own thing. So he's got that far on the story, and obviously he's been separated from this child, which, to put them together would be awesome for the television. But let's see. He doesn't really take direction. You have to follow him on his journey, which is fascinating. But as a filmmaker, a director, a producer, I want to create little obstacles and conflicts and stuff. So so ultimately, I want to have a picture that I can submit to film festivals.
Is his partner Thai or ex-partner?
I got the impression that this was back in Ireland.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just being Irish myself, I just know that the guy has an interesting story back here, back in Ireland, and I just love to have understood that part and how it led to Thailand, because I suppose that's probably one of the underlining themes here on Thairish Times. Why did you leave your country, and what are you doing in Thailand? Really, if that's kind of been flowing through the channel since its existence.
If I can set it up, get him on the show, it'll be a blast.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to ask you. If there's any chance you could, if he's watching this now, I mean,
yeah,
contact me there, Joseph. I'd love to have you on, hear your story. All right, so James, is Bangkok a dangerous city then?
I think it's a safe city as long as you exercise caution. It's like the Polish novelist Joseph Conrad said, when in the tropics, before everything, keep calm. And a story that I remembered recently when I was thinking about crime and safety for foreigners, was one of an American, and his name was Troy Lee Pilkington. And this was 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, July 2013. It was at the end of my old soy. I used to live on Sukhumvit 68. And this guy, 50 years old, he's in a taxi, he's going home, and he noticed that the meter on the taxi is moving quicker than it should be moving, and he has a cup of coffee in his hand, and he's angry. If you see the meter moving like that, just, okay, don't put someone in a corner because they might react. But he did. This guy, Troy, he put the guy in a corner. He started shouting at him. He started screaming at him. And then when the guy didn't respond, he threw his cup of coffee over the taxi driver. Taxi driver stopped the car in front of 7-Eleven, end of Soy 68, takes out the machete, which most taxi drivers and bus drivers have beneath the seat, by the way. Worth keeping that in mind. He takes out the machete and he slices the guy up and kills him outside 7-Eleven for the sake of 30, 40 baht.
Yeah, really sad story. The guy, I remember seeing the video, he got out of a taxi and was walking on the street, and the taxi guy came from behind him and hit him right there into the jugular with the machete. Just obviously the guy bled out and died. And it was over 60 baht. I remember that. So he died over 60 baht, $2. So I've always been aware of, when I'm in the taxis in Thailand, that they do carry weapons, the taxi drivers, and some of them can be rough and ready characters. And if the fare, it's happened to me a couple of times where I noticed that the meter was ticking over a lot faster. Because I remember before, I used to work in a language school, and I used to go from the MRT station to the school was 100 baht, a 30-minute ride, 100 baht. And then one morning it was 200 baht for the same distance, and I knew that guy's meter was clocked. But I remember when I had heard about that story that you just told, that always scared me. I didn't just not say anything. It wasn't worth it, so I just gave the 200 baht in. I was always wary of that because of that guy that died. And I just give anyone a bit of advice. The taxi drivers, just don't say anything, because they do carry weapons, and some of them are great. 99% of them are fantastic, but I have had certain instances where I felt uncomfortable in Thailand. It seems to be a lot to do with the taxi drivers.
Statistically speaking, across the world, you're most likely to be murdered by a family member or someone you're close to, statistically speaking. And statistically speaking, you're most likely to be murdered if there's alcohol involved. So statistically speaking, the most dangerous thing you can do is have a pint with your old man.
Love it. Look, we'll leave it there, James. Thanks very much anyway. And what I'll do is I'll link your channel in the description. All right, JD Strange, check it out. Check out his channel. And nice talking to you, and best of luck. All right.
Inconspicuous in the city.